Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of The Jungle. Want to apologize to everybody. Haven't been putting as many of these out lately. We're trying to get back on track, and in that, I have asked my good buddy Mike Pietoso to join me today. Mike, say hi to everybody.
Hey, everybody. How's it going? What's up, Mr. Tackett? How are you?
What's up? I'm good, buddy. How are you?
I'm doing
It's been
good.
it's been so long since we've talked. It's been like what, 3 days?
I know.
Um, sorry, that was gross. So just to give everybody a little intro on Mike, I met Mike. Shit, dude, it's been what, like 10 years ago? Longer than that, like 15 years ago.
15 years. Yeah, man. We're getting old. Yep.
So Mike was the house supervisor. So when I was running from the U.S. Marshals, I thought it would be a good idea to go up to Ithaca, New York, and get treatment. And it was a year-long program. I didn't have active warrants at the time. They were just kind of investigating me. And so we thought sending me 2 states away to upstate New York would be the play. I actually ended up staying up there. It was over a year, I think.
Yeah.
I almost finished. I did finish the program.
Yeah.
But Mike was my big brother when I showed up there. He watched over the house. He was like the supervisor. I took a liking to Mike as soon as I got there. He was fit. He was doing he was training for Ironmans and or I think it was Tough Mudder at the time you were training for when I was up there. We had a big workout facility. He used to always try and get me in the gym, and I would always kind of blow him off. It was before I was back into working out again, but you always motivated me. Like while I was up there, I was like, I want what that guy has. You know what I mean? Like you had it all together. So for those of you that don't know, Renovation House, it was up in Spencer, New York?
Spencer, New York. Yes, sir.
Spencer, New York. It's in the middle of nowhere. It's on a mountain. Decent sized facility. It housed about 30 men?
Yeah, it could be up to 30 men. Yeah, about that.
Housed about 30 men, and had a full gym, which it was kind of like a high school gym, like what you would see in a weight room in like high school. It had all kinds of equipment. It was actually a pretty nice gym.
Yeah.
Full kitchen. Like a big walk-in freezer. It had like a day room area. It had a big kitchen area. It was huge. It was a cool little facility. The place was kind of falling apart, but
yes, for sure.
it was definitely different. And I remember being up there through the winter. It was just in that area. When it snowed, you're not getting off that mountain.
No,
that's the one thing that I remember. Yeah, you when you got stuck up there, you were up there. So that's where I ended up meeting Mike at, and we haven't quite stayed in touch throughout the years. I came home. Fate ran its course, and the Marshals ended up getting me, and so I went to prison for a few years. Met back up with Mike. It was just about 2 years ago.
Yeah. Yep.
I think so. We kind of stayed friends on social media, but Mike kind of pops off and on social media, so we had reconnected, started talking. I think Ellen or Elena, not Ellen, sister Elena.
Yeah.
I reached out to her and asked about you one time, and she was like, "Oh, I have his phone number." So I reached out to you.
Yeah.
And you and I reconnected, started talking, and I had found out that you had also kind of spiraled and went down another path as well. So I think you didn't really have any criminal record or anything when you were at Renovation House the first time, did you?
I had the only thing was I had a couple DUIs.
Okay.
Yeah, nothing crazy. Yeah, and then they always say it gets worse and worse as you go along. And every bottom has a trap door, and I definitely experienced that after getting sober. That was the first time I really got sober was when I met you, and I didn't really realize what it took. It took constant maintenance and finding your rhythm and routine, what works for you, and it started with a girl, slowly dating a girl that wasn't doing the right thing, going out to bars, and then next thing I knew, a couple of years later, I ended up in prison. So yeah.
Let's not dive that far into it yet.
Yeah.
Let's go. Why don't you tell everybody, kind of just give us a quick rundown of what your story is, like what kind of led you into drinking and alcohol, what turned into the stint that was prison, and we'll start off there.
Sure. Yeah, so I'm from New Jersey originally. Grew up there, and so my first memory that I can remember was being molested at 7, right? That was my first memory. And what that did to me was it made me a liar, number one, because I would always have to lie to people about like my first, any kind of experience I've had. Um, uh, I'd always feel shame and guilt from it. And that made me feel different than everybody else. So I grew up from like 7 years old when that happened, just feeling different and dirty, if that makes sense, you know?
Yeah.
Um, so you mix that with growing up in an alcoholic and addicted family. Both my parents were functioning addicts and alcoholics. And so I grew up in that chaos, right? So I developed these coping mechanisms when I was young, with like OCD stuff, like controlling things in my room, being highly organized. I learned to be a master person that like makes everything look good on the outside because I had to mask what was going on at my house. So everything was fine, nothing to see here. Don't look behind me. Don't look at the fire that's happening behind me. Just look at this shiny thing right here. And that's how I grew up, like just pretending that everything was going to be okay, even though I was like dying on the inside. Also, throw that in, I excelled pretty well at track. So I was a nationally ranked athlete growing up from age 10 to 14. And it was just an incredible amount of pressure. So I struggled with perfectionism. And at the same time, I was a class clown, so I was getting in trouble. And the only attention that I really got was like the negative attention. So I can remember my first addiction was probably girls. When I was 12, when I first kissed a girl, I was like, oh my gosh, a girl likes me. And when that dopamine reward hit my brain, I was like, girls like me? This is great, So I would chase a girl to kiss them, chase a girl to like be my girlfriend. And that was probably my first addiction. But then when I got to 16, that's when I had my first drink. And I just remember feeling confident. Like every self-esteem issue, every thought that I had negative about myself, there was just confidence there. I didn't care what people thought when I was intoxicated. So, um, and then when I went to college, that was the first time I didn't have to take care of the house. I didn't have to take care of my parents. I didn't have to put up a front. I could just be me. And I basically went crazy in college, and that's when the addiction started going full rampant, but it was hard partying back then. It wasn't like an addiction. It was just hard partying. And I started doing coke and getting into all that. Um, and yeah, man, it was a crazy road up into that point. And then that led into the addiction for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're in college. I can relate to that. I had every opportunity in the world. I had college scholarships for football. I wanted to party. You know what I mean? And I didn't think it was an issue. I was like, but it's my dad owned a bar, and I remember being like, I think I was 13 years old the first time I did it. I walked in with, I went to work with him at the bar on a Saturday morning, and he was dropping me at my friend's house. And friends were coming over. We were having a party. There was only like 6 or 7 of us, but I had a big duffel bag, and I stuck 2 cases of, I think it was like Budweiser and Bud Light, in this fucking massive duffel bag, and took it to my buddy Tony's house. And it was way too much alcohol for all of us, but that's just what I want. It's what I wanted to do. It was like, oh, well, we're just partying. This is what, but looking back on it, I'm like, I was fucking 13. Like there was no reason I should have been doing that,
Right.
Like that's wild to think of my 13-year-old doing that right now. I look at Flynn who's 12, and I'm like, dude, like what was I thinking?
Yeah.
But yeah, it was always, I just wanted to party. And I think I can relate to you. There was that confidence that came with it. I was always the big kid. I was overweight through like middle school and stuff, like going into high school, until I got like really active into football. So like when I would drink or when I would smoke weed or whatever, there was that confidence, and that's what I think that's what I was more or less addicted to. It wasn't the idea of drinking, it wasn't the buzz, it made me feel like, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
I finally fit in. Yeah, I finally fit in. Okay, so you're at college. and then where did things kind of go from there? Like,
Yeah.
did you
So
graduate or?
no. So wait, I have one question for you. Did you have any Banana Red Mad Dog in that case? Because Mad
Fuck
Dog is
yeah. Not
Mad
in
Dog
that
is always
case,
the
but
go-to.
not in that case. But I remember I was ineligible for football my sophomore year because I mean, you're gonna laugh. I've always had a issue with authority.
Yeah.
Like it's I'm gonna do what I want to do. Fuck you, whatever. And it was Jim that made me ineligible because I didn't want to dress. I was like, I play football. I'm a fucking football player.
Right.
I
Right.
don't have to do this stupid like dodgeball shit. Fuck you guys, you know. And so Coach Bright, and I'm actually friends with Coach Bright to this day. Like I hated him for the rest of high school. I would talk shit about him. I would mean mug him in the hallways. I was
Yeah.
obviously bigger than he was. I would try and like not like aggressively push up on him, but like kind of
Yeah.
like puff my chest out at him and shit. I met
Yeah.
him. I ran into him a couple years after high school, and I thanked him, man. I'm like, you know, like that was the first. He was the first person that started to break down my ego, like
Right.
as far as my issue with authority. But no, me being ineligible that sophomore year, we used to have what was called super fans. We would like paint our faces and like we would have theme nights and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so I linked up with those guys and we would go out and we would get Mad Dog before every game. We would get like 2 or 3 Mad Dogs and throw them down before we
Oh
would go into the
wow.
games. And so yeah,
Wow.
Mad Dog was and the banana strawberry, that was the Mad Dog. So
I had to ask that because that's like a common theme. So growing up and talking to people, that anybody that I talked to when they started drinking was always Budweiser, Boone's Farm, Thunderbird, or Mad Dog. So
yep.
I had to make sure. So
Yep.
all right, good.
The Mad Dog was definitely in the rotation.
Yeah. All right. So yeah. So basically what happened. So okay. So the developing brain, right, it develops until age 26. Your prefrontal cortex, which is the higher decision making. When you're running on as a child, you're running on the limbic system, which is lower, like more emotional, right? So what started happening with me at 16 is I started switching my dopamine need from girls and sports, like winning and doing well at sports and that kind of feeling, to substances. And then that started rewiring my brain, because it's still developing at this point, to relying on a substance to like instantly take me from not feeling good about myself to like not caring or feeling confident. Because I was kind of the opposite of you. I was always a beanpole growing up. I didn't grow into my body and probably until like late 20s. I was always just super skinny. I fit in with everybody, but I had a little crew, but I didn't, like, I wasn't a jock. I wasn't this, I wasn't that. I just kind of like did my own thing. So I never really felt like I fit in. But then, like, when I started finding, especially Coke at 19, like, you find when you're doing Coke, you have like 4 or 5 people that you're doing Coke with the whole night. And you feel like that's your crew, no matter what.
Yeah.
Like, you look at each other and you're like, yeah, we're doing something different than everybody else.
Yeah.
And when I found that, like, camaraderie, if you want to call it, I was kind of hooked on that too. Like, that was also the addiction. The addiction was not only the substance, but the nightlife. Like, knowing that you have these certain people, the addictive lifestyle, the fast lifestyle. So
Feeling like you're fitting in finally, and yeah, I get it.
yeah, for sure. And so now, we're at age 21, and I went home one summer. My mom worked at an advertising agency in New York City, and I got a job as an intern during the summer, and then they hired me on. So I was partying. My grades were crap in college. So in between junior and senior year, I just ended up staying and working the job in New York City. And then about a year or two later at the advertising agency, we would go out for drinks after work or during work, and I was chatting with the bartenders, and they're like, yeah, we make like $500, $600 a night. And I was making, this is back in 2000, right? So I'm making 35,000 a year in the year 2000. We're living in walk-up apartments with roaches and stuff because I can't afford anything, can't afford my dry cleaning. So I'm like, man, I want to make that money. So then I started getting into bartending. And then what happens with bartending, the chef at the restaurant next door is selling Coke. I'm making $600 a night. I'm staying up all night. In New York City, it's a 24-hour party. I don't have to be at work the next day till 5 p.m. I work till 4 in the morning. So I started getting into that lifestyle. And then, around age 23, I was like, I can't really do this anymore. This isn't going to be sustaining. So 9/11 happens and I wanted to become a firefighter. So I moved out to California, had some friends out there, became an EMT, went through a fire academy, got thrown out of the fire academy because I was doing coke. And then that's when I started really seeing consequences for my using. Was the first time was being thrown out of the fire academy. Moved back to New Jersey, worked as an EMT. I never went to work intoxicated or hungover. I would hit my 3 12-hour shifts, go party that night, sleep it off for a couple of days, go into work, So that was my routine until I got a couple DUIs. And, there was some other, like I went down to Florida for a little bit, some Rolling Stone type stuff.
Yeah.
But I started getting consequences with the DUI, so I ended up going up to upstate New York. Well, the funny story, actually. So my uncle was a born-again Christian, and I grew up Roman Catholic in New Jersey, which meant I got confirmed, confirmation. Other than that, like we went to church like 3 times a year for like Christmas, to get palms, and to get ashes on Ash Wednesday. So, and my dad was an organized crime, right? So like he would bring me to church and I'd be like, I know what you do like for your life.
Yeah.
Like, so like, it just totally turned me off. I was like, this is a bunch of crap. So I became an atheist or a severe agnostic in my 20s. So they dumped me off at Renovation House, right? And I didn't know it was a Christian rehab. So I get there and I go in and they start anointing me. Yeah. They started anointing me with oil and praying over me. And I'm like, what the F is going on here? This is crazy.
I remember having a conversation. I remember talking to you about, it was about God up at Renovation House. And you told me you didn't go that far into depth about like your dad and stuff like that. But I remembered you telling me like you were definitely agnostic, like atheist when you showed up.
Yeah. Yeah. And so Pastor Manny was the guy that was there. And, he was very patient. Like I would challenge the pastors. I'd be like, this is a bunch of crap, all this stuff. But they were so nice and patient with me. And then Pastor Manny was like, have you ever prayed? I was like, pray to what? What are you talking about? So he's like, just go and just pray. So I prayed. And then he's like, have you started listening for a response? I was like, no. So he started telling me to listen for a response. And I started like, God started talking to me and saying, go read this in the Old Testament. I never touched the Old Testament. It was like, and then I would go back and read it. And it was exactly what I was going through at that moment. So I was like, man, there's something to this, So, that's when I had my first spiritual experience was there for sure. And, throughout the years, and I'm sure we'll get into this later, like I got kind of church hurt and, all that kind of stuff from people and didn't really realize what I was more works based instead of like faith based with God. Like it wasn't a change in the heart; it was a change in the mind, if that makes sense. And that's not going to be sustaining. And then it turns into works based. And then if you do stuff and expecting things in return, and then they don't work out, then you get turned off by God. So and that's what I set myself up for that, and that's what happened eventually, and that's what I think led into more of the addiction again. So
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, listen.
Right.
All week, so I got a whole bag of it. What did it this morning?
Yep, that sounds about right.
All right, guys. Sorry about the interruption. We are back. I told Mike I had a little studio. We'll just call it recording difficulties. So going back to like being church hurt with people. I mean, I can relate to that, man. You and I have had conversations out on the road. I'm not going to get into my story on here. I think the people that need to know my story. I'm not trying to make that public. But I read something this morning. I got up and was drinking my coffee and scrolling Facebook, and it said something about people that talk about they don't trust God and they don't trust Jesus because the church hurt them. the church hurt Jesus. You know what I mean? The church technically murdered Jesus.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
You're right.
They crucified him.
Yeah.
So it's there's been a lot more things that have opened my eyes recently. I've gotten a lot closer to God recently, because I've correlated and been able to understand, like, God didn't hurt me. It was the church that hurt me, you know, and
Right.
that's opened up a lot of doors for me. It's opened my eyes to a lot of things. It's been a game changer. So I can totally relate on the church.
Yeah.
So
I had, I had this idea. So, okay. So I consider myself a Christian, and so sometimes I hesitate saying that because Christians get such a bad rap. I love Jesus and I love his teachings, and I stand for what he stands for. You know what I mean? So that's why I consider myself a Christian. And so that being said, as my definition, right? Going back to 2010 when I first became a Christian, I didn't know anything about it. So I put a lot of trust into pastors and people. And that's not what I think people should do, because that's going to turn them off to God. And God's probably looking down, being like, he's like, man, all you guys are messing this up, you know, like you're
all getting it wrong.
Yeah, you're all getting it wrong. Trying to represent
Yeah.
me, you know. And like I just feel sometimes that like the church turned into a corporation, a conglomerate, you know, and
It is. Yeah.
it's a juggernaut at this point. And I don't think that this is the way Jesus wanted it to function. And it's just tough, you know. But I'm not saying that because I have the solution. I don't have the solution. But I know that that it's probably not the way that it should be, you know, like spending all this money on smoke machines and all this other stuff when there's people hurting in the street that need your help, you know. So that's my church hurt, is that I feel pain for the church. I feel pain for myself. I feel pain and just sorrow, just that we're all, and that's why we need God's grace though, right? Because we're all getting this thing wrong. So,
well, I'll tell you, I don't know if it was you that I brought it up with this week talking to, but I said, you know, one thing that has been very eye-opening and kind of a game changer for me is looking around. And when I started going to church, I felt like believing in God, I felt like there had to be perfection. And I think that's a huge misconception.
Yeah.
That's a huge misconception that people have, because God doesn't ask for perfection. I'm sorry, let me slow down while I'm trying to get that out.
Yeah.
All he wants is you to come and have a relationship with him. You know what I mean? He there's nobody on this earth, no pastor, nobody that is perfect. And once I kind of like understood that, and I'm like, I'm never going to achieve being perfect. Everybody sins, everybody makes mistakes, even the church.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's part of life. That's part of what happens here on earth.
Right.
Like, it's enabled me to not take myself so serious.
Yeah.
To not get so down on myself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I would beat myself up for the longest time. I'd be like, dude, you're a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Like, especially back in the day. I still do it to this day. You know what I mean? I'll do something stupid and it rolls around in my head for like a week. And I'm like, dude, he's upstairs just thinking you're an asshole. And he might be, but he doesn't care. You know what I mean? Like he as long as I take it to him and have a conversation with him about it, he doesn't care.
Right.
So
I agree, man. Man, me and you were cut from the same cloth for sure. And yeah, we had this conversation, and that's when I stepped into Christianity off the bat. You know, like, even though it talks about not being works-based, like, you know, by faith alone you're saved, and there's so many other verses, you know, but like I saw the opportunity for perfectionism, and I'm like, this is my go-to. This is my coping mechanism. I know how to be perfect. I was
going to say that would be. Yeah, for somebody like you who's kind of like OCD and like a perfectionist, I could see where Christianity would have, but I could also see where that could be a major, not a red flag, but like a major catalyst for you to stop believing in God. Because when you get into the church and see that things are not perfect, they are nowhere near perfect.
Right.
In a lot of cases, they're uglier than what goes on out in the streets.
Exactly.
Then it could, for all intents and purposes, deter you in the opposite direction.
Yeah.
You know?
And it was from my own devices, bringing And, like Jesus talks about old wineskins and new wineskins. Like me bringing this old wineskin, this old behavior in with me and trying to match it up with God's behavior. And the result was me getting turned off. And it was my fault.
Yeah.
And I think both of us are in like a really good spot because we're both rediscover. Like we went through this like church hurt, this initial Christianity thing. And now we have like, I feel like a deeper relationship with God because of it. Because now we've been through those mistakes, and now we're at a different. I don't want to say level because
Yeah.
that sounds like you're higher than, but a different spot in our faith walk with God. And I think that we're both.
Well, I attribute a lot of it to age. I think when I was younger and I would hear the phrase "with age comes wisdom," I would
Yeah,
be like, whatever. I know everything. Like, what are
exactly.
you
Right.
talking about? I'm a genius. I should be working at NASA. You know what I mean? But the older that I get, I I have a full understanding of that quote because the older I get, the more I've learned to shut my mouth and listen. I've learned that I'm not the smartest guy in the room. If I am the smartest guy in the room, that's not the room I need to be in. Um, I've learned that, but there's a deeper understanding that comes with everything too. Just like the church hurt, you know what I mean? I can sit back and look at everything and be like, well, this is why that happened, and those people are hurt too. You know what I mean? Those people don't have it all together. There's reasons that they did. You
Right.
take people where they're at. You understand people. Every single person on this planet has their own trauma,
Yeah.
has their own shit that they're dealing with, and the sooner you can come to terms with that instead of looking at somebody and judging them, the better off you'll be and the better off they can be. You know
Right.
what I mean? The better off everybody around you will be because you're not carrying that nonsense. But yeah, the older I get, man, it's just it's been another game changer because I can finally sit back and there's just more understanding with the older you get, you know.
I agree. I think that there's more understanding, and then also my give a shit meter is a lot less these
I'm
days.
too tired.
Yeah,
I'm too tired to give a shit, man.
exactly.
I'm too tired to give a shit.
So once those
I just
like
want to.
once those match up, it's like life gets like, even though you're getting older and you start seeing there's less time ahead of you than there is behind, you start like enjoying life a little bit more because you're just like, I don't care, and like I want to understand, and like I'm open to like getting other people's opinions instead of me saying I know this, I know that, I know better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm always my wife. I'm open to constructive criticism from everybody except my wife. I get bent out of shape when my wife gives me constructive criticism, man. I'm not even going to say that I don't. Um, but yeah, man, I think you're right. And the older you get, the more you just want peace in your life. And so the sooner you can, you know what I mean, make amends with the people that you've hurt, that have hurt you, forgive people. There's a certain level of peace that comes over you that is, you know what I mean?
For sure.
Nobody wants to go through, I think about all the years that I carried like hate for people, man. Like
Yeah.
dudes in the gym, I wouldn't even talk to him. I would just go in there and hate him just because it would give me a good workout. I'd be like, fuck that guy. Like, I don't like his hair. He looks stupid as fuck. Fuck
Exactly.
him.
Right.
Like, but I carried like so much hate for years, dude, that it's just it's too much energy. It's
Yeah.
more energy than I even want to like have to expend.
Yeah.
You know?
Is that I don't
So
have it anymore. I don't have the energy for that anymore. So
yeah.
yeah, exactly.
So
Yep.
okay, so you got to Renovation House.
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about Renovation House real quick.
Sure.
Do you and I just on the I think I've asked you if you talked to really anybody else that was still up there. We'll make this quick.
Yeah.
But do you still talk to Carmen or any of those people?
I talked to Carmen over the years, and I haven't talked to him probably in the last 6 months. I got to give him a call because I miss talking to him. He's doing really well. He's got a wife, a kid, living in Texas.
Good.
So he's a success story. Unfortunately, there's been from Renovation House, there was like I've known I think seven guys that died that were in the program.
So I know Johnny died, and I know like Little John.
Little John,
I
yeah.
know he died.
Do you remember? Was Zeke there with us? Zeke?
Zeke was I
Yeah, he
remember
died.
Zeke died.
Yeah, Zeke died.
I
Yeah.
remember Sonny died.
Sonny died. Yep. Oh, so Sonny was my roommate. So I had
Yeah.
Carmen and Sonny were my roommates, and we were like the supervisors, whatever. And yeah, Sonny went home for a weekend and came back, and
I was
yeah.
there when it happened.
Yeah. And I remember that being super traumatic because like Carmen and I didn't want to clean out the stuff out of the refrigerator. We let his food rot, and then once it finally rotted, we threw it out. We didn't go in his room. We waited for his mom to come. Like because there's coming from like what happened to me when I was a kid, and like seeing my dad, my dad went to prison, stuff that happened to me over the years, like, like the addiction lifestyle is pretty traumatic, right? Because you deal with a lot of
Yeah.
traumatic stuff. So
Well, you
uh
see a lot of
you
yeah.
see a lot of traumatic stuff. So like when that happened, I was just like, what I did mostly, and I try not to do anymore, is like, just stuff that down there, stuff that down there, stuff that down there. So when that happened with
Well,
Sonny, I stuffed it,
dude, I do have to say though, like, listen, I love the idea of renovation house.
Yeah.
And as everybody knows from this show and what I've talked to you, my whole goal is to open some sort of like re-entry and sober housing,
Yeah.
like facility for men, do one for men and one for women. Um, Looking back on where I'm at now, and looking back on how that house was run, and it was of no fault of like yours or Carmen's or Sonny's. It
Yeah.
was the program and how the program was structured. It wasn't a good program, dude.
No, not at all.
There was no counseling. It was
Nope.
basically we were all left. It was peer support all day.
Yeah.
And your peers were a bunch of people that were struggling still just as much as you, who never walked in faith, most of them before in their life.
Exactly.
I felt like I had a leg up. Yeah. I
Yep.
felt like I had a leg up going up there because I was like, oh, well, I grew up in church. So like this kind of makes sense. I'm not, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But 90% of those guys up there had never been to church.
Yeah.
Or they were like Catholic or like, which whatever. I'm not knocking Catholicism or anything, but I like, it's just there was no support. You were lucky if you could get in and talk to Pastor Manny once a week.
Right.
And even when you got in to talk to him, I kind of felt like it was the same old like spiel over and over. Like you just need like just sit still, like guard your heart, sit still. That and again, it's no knock to him. I think that big church that funded us just thought they were doing the right thing. There wasn't a lot of oversight,
Absolutely.
so they didn't really know what was going on up there, and there weren't enough resources allocated to get counselors in there, to get people, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was kind of just like, it was the blind leading the blind. And for like you and me, I mean, I went back, right before I went to prison, I went back and Manny actually kicked me out. I think I told you the story, didn't I?
Yeah.
Yeah, I drove my car off the side. I had this grandiose idea to come back. All the guys up there had given me a bunch of cash and they were like, yeah, go back to Ohio, get a bunch of pills and come back. And I was like, yeah, I've got my car.
Yeah.
I left it like, I think as soon as it got dark, I left and I hydroplaned on the fucking side of that mountain and ended up in the fucking field. And I went back and Manny was like, you're done, dude. Like, I'm not, he was like, we're not doing this. I was like, I get it, man. It is what it is.
Yeah.
But that was after I had been up there. I think I had been up there at that point 18 months, like with a break in between. Like I braked, came home, then started getting messed up again, like started using again.
Yeah.
Went back up because I thought that's where I needed to be. But that's it. It just I love all the guys that I met up there, man. And like I said, I still talk to Elena. I still talk to you. Like there's a handful of guys that I keep in contact with on social media. It just wasn't a great place. And I will encourage anybody that's in a halfway house or a sober living facility, if you don't have resources available to you to have a counselor, have a case manager that's kind of like walking you through your process, getting you where you need to be. If you don't have a counselor, somebody that you can go and talk to, if you're not in classes, if they don't have you in some sort of like, even if you're living in a sober house and they've got you going to like an IOP program, that's perfect. You know what I mean? Like just be doing something. Don't, I'm not going to say, I don't want to sound like I'm blaspheming here when I'm like, God can't, like, you have to put your foot forward and fix yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you can't just, and that's what was wild about renovation house is Manny, we would have church in the morning, church in the, I think it was just once a day. We would have church for, it was about an hour, and he would get up and he would just preach scripture.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, but you're not really making this very relevant to the house. Like you're just kind of speaking the word of God, which is fine, but you're doing it to a bunch of guys that like have issues, like they need help. You know what I mean? And none of us knew. We just all thought our families knew we were safe. We knew we were safe. Like, so that's where we were. And again, it's not knocking renovation house. It's again, I understand you only have so much funding to do what you could do, but it was just, that was a wild place, man.
It was definitely wild. I agree with you 100%. And so this is the conundrum with the faith-based versus non-faith-based places. So you get no funding for the faith base, so then they have to work on a shoestring
Yeah.
budget, and the other places don't bring any faith into it. So, there's power in faith, but then there's also power in counseling. So I think I told you, I'm going for my master's in counseling right now, and I want
Yeah.
like one of my things that I want to bring into it is bring in Christian counseling, but also there's the science to it as well, marry the two, and
Yeah.
you're right. I mean, how many missed opportunities did we have with places like that where, who knows what might have changed if we would have had the right counseling in the right situation, but you're right. It wasn't run that well back then at all. So,
Yeah, and like I said, I'm not knocking Manny. I'm not knocking anybody
yeah.
that ran that place. I just think like I've been in a lot of facilities, man, and that was the only place where it was kind of like you're just it's biding your time and it's idle hands,
Yeah,
man. There's
absolutely. 100%.
unless you were working out, and it was no. I remember it was no electronics.
Yeah.
Like the only TV we could watch were those Wow music videos, like the gospel music Wow,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
like the Left Behind series or things
Yeah.
like that. Like it was all, and it was just, it was a lot, man. Even for me, who had like been in church growing up, it was a lot. It was like it's just being like forced down your throat.
Yeah.
And I remember, but I will say the benefit of all of it is we had a really, we managed to still have a really good time up there. Like I think about the cliff jumping. I was trying to find the video of us cliff jumping. I was going to like snip it into this. I think I have it somewhere on one of my hard drives. But we had a good time up there, man. Like it's just, we weren't up there to have a good time though. We
Yeah,
were up there to,
no, but that's like what so I had the Jeep Wrangler, right? We would take the top down, we'd go get a bunch of energy drinks and head to Ithaca
yeah,
and go cliff jumping. But that's what we did to like feel normal, because you're right. Like we went from crazy like party guys, right, to like living this crazy lifestyle to like going with no electronics, having to watch gospel stuff, right?
yep.
So like what did we do? That was the only thing that like made us feel somewhat normal, was to do stuff like
Yep.
that, get a little crazy and go do whatever we could, So
Chugging energy drink, go jump off a 40-foot cliff.
the Christian speedball, right? The Christian speedball is
Yeah.
energy drink. So,
So all right, so
yeah,
you let's touch base. So tell me about your charges. Like what were your
yeah,
so you leave renovation house was before your charges.
yeah, exactly. So basically, renovation house 2009, went there. 2010 I started nursing school. I got accepted. So I was an EMT before, and I was like, I want to level up, but I was like, I don't think I can do medical school, like the prerequisites for it. I was like, I don't think I had the energy to do it, but I think I can do nursing school, right? So got into nursing school, got through that, ended up moving from upstate New York to Brooklyn, did nursing there, did medic stuff there. And then I started, my mom passed away. My dad was drinking all the time because she passed away. I had to sell the house. I mean, there was a whole bunch of like stuff in between that happened, and it led me back into like heavy using. So I was like, all right, I'm going to call renovation house. So I'm going to call them back up and go back up, because I want to recreate what worked for me the first time. Even though it didn't really work, I did have some sober time. So I was like, oh, that's probably the answer, right? So I decided to go back up there. And then there was a pastor, John, that took it over. And I think he's doing good things with it now, I hear. But so I was like, I need to come back up and try to get some help. So before I went up, I went to Port Authority. I remember drinking. Last thing I remember was drinking at Port Authority. I made it up to Binghamton in Port Authority, New York City. Took a bus, made up to Binghamton, New York. Actually, the last thing I remember was drinking at a bar in Binghamton. And then next thing I know, I wake up in the back of a taxi cab, right? And I'm like, what's going on here? And the guy's like, I was like, where am I wear glasses normally. I was like, where are my glasses? He's like, oh, you gave it to me as collateral. You don't have any money, and we're going to, I'm dropping you off in Spencer or something like that. I was like, all right. I was like, well, I need my glasses because I can't see. He's like, no, I'm not going to give them to you because then you can just like take off or whatever. So I was like, all right, pull over here. And so he pulls over, and I go to get him off the dashboard. So he starts elbowing me, and I put him in a chokehold. And he starts like going limp, and then as he's like going limp, he's like, I can't breathe. So I let him go, and in the paperwork it said that too. So he ran, I ran, he ran. He called the police. I was just super intoxicated, so I went and hid in some bushes somewhere. I was literally in the middle of nowhere outside of Ithaca. and they had a dog and they found me, whatever. So I originally got arrested for 2 misdemeanors: criminal obstruction of airway and theft of services, because I didn't pay the taxi cab. So when I was like in between my DUIs and that time, I got in trouble for fights at bars and stuff like that, you know, like little stupid stuff. And you go to court a couple times and it gets like dropped down to disorderly conduct. So I was like, and that was in New Jersey, right outside of New York City. So I'm assuming that's what's going to happen. And it was in a small town in Danby, New York. I was on.
Yeah, you don't play around. Hey,
No.
man, that's a lesson. You can play around in big cities. Big cities don't want to deal with your ass. You don't play around in small towns. They will railroad you every time, buddy.
And they did. And they got that. So I went to court a couple times, and the DA was like, he's like, I put you on the news. He's like, I think you're just a slick Willie or whatever. He said something like that. I was like, whatever, man. So he's like, I'm going to indict you on felonies. So I don't understand.
I want to stop you real quick. So you said they put you on the news, right?
Yeah.
So you woke up in a jail cell. Did you see yourself on the news?
I woke up in a jail cell. And then the first thing in jail, people want to know if you're like a pedophile or not. So they're like, what are your charges? And I'm like, I don't even know what my charges are. Like, I am, like, my tongue is sticking to the roof of my mouth. That's how hungover I am, you know? So I'm like, I don't even know what my charges are. And then they get, like, later on that night, they're like, oh, you're on the news for strangling somebody. And I'm like, okay, well, that's what they told me, the COs told me what my charges were, but then I didn't really realize the magnitude of the whole situation until I was on the local news, and everybody's like, "Oh, damn, you're on the news." And then I was like, "Oh, damn, I'm on the news."
I will never forget. So I was all over all the local news channels when they caught me, because mind you, like there had been a string of burglaries in the area, and I'm not going to get into what was done and what wasn't. I was convicted on 4.
Yeah, I heard,
but I remember waking up the next morning and CO Sutton, she's a big black woman, kicks my door, fucking throws it open, throws the newspaper at me. She's like, "You're famous, Mr. Tackett."
Oh, wow.
And I was like, "The fuck?" And I open up the paper, I'm front page. And so I'm like, "Man, fuck this." And I threw the paper at the door. I got up and I walked out, and we had big screen TVs in the day room in county jail. A bunch of people sitting around. And I walk out, go sit at a table, and all of a sudden, dude, it was like the noon news. And it's like local string of burglaries, suspect arrested, blah, 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 blah. And my big, stupid fucking face all over the TV. And everybody's looking at me, and they're like, "Bro." And I'm like, man, I turned and walked my ass back in my cell. I don't think I came out for like another 24 to 48 hours, dude. First of all, I was detoxing. So I went in there and I was sick as shit.
Yeah.
But I'll never forget how embarrassing that was. And you know what's wild? I wasn't even embarrassed for myself.
Yeah.
I kept thinking, I'm like, my mom is fucking beside herself, dude.
Right.
Like, that's all I could think. Like, my mom is so embarrassed, because that's how my mom is. She's just like, she can't handle stuff like that, you know?
Yeah.
And so the whole time I'm thinking, like, she's so fucked up right now, and I can't call her. I don't have a calling card. I'm trying to call her collect. I think I got one call through to her, and she was like didn't want to talk. She's like, so I just let it go.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I'll never forget being on the, and then I'll tell you, there was actually the township I got arrested in. The sheriff of the township or whatever, or the captain of the police department wrote a book, and it was like World's Dumbest Criminals or some shit.
Oh no!
And I'm in the book. Like, he doesn't mention any of the people by name, because then, like, I think there's like royalties, or like you could get in trouble for doing that.
Okay.
But my story is absolutely like, man steals Dodge Charger, goes on the string of 3 burglaries, like gets caught, and he's the guy that just got caught. Like, the homeowner comes home, he's like, "Who are you and why are you in my house?" And I was like, "Well, I guess I'm just the guy that just got caught." He's like,
"Oh man."
But it was, that was a wild feeling too. That's something I never want to experience again.
What did on the Chappelle show? I know it wasn't coke you're doing, but he's like, "Cocaine's a hell of a drug." Right?
Oh yeah, cocaine's a hell of a drug.
Oh,
so all right, so you're in county jail.
All right,
and
yep, county jail, and then I get bailed out by Pastor Early, and he brings me to Renovation House, and I start fighting the case from there. go to court a few times, and then the guy's like, the DA, I forgot his name, Dan something or other. He was like, "I'm going to indict you on felonies," and I was like, "Yeah, right," And I didn't realize what a kangaroo court the grand jury is, but he brought me in front
Oh
of
yeah.
the grand jury. You're not allowed to give anything really. Just you got to just answer the questions. And man, I mean, going back, yeah, I would have handled it totally different. I would have okay. So the reason I didn't take their misdemeanor deal, they were going to give me 3 months in jail, 3 years probation, because I would have had my nursing license taken away. And like, I like to gamble with my health and my life, right? So I'm like, fuck that. I'm going to take this all the way. There's no way this is going to trial. Like I always heard.
No, you never go to trial.
I
You
know.
never go to trial.
I was like, I was holding off.
Especially if you're guilty, you never go to trial, Mike.
I was holding off. I listened to my cousin. My cousin was in organized crime. My cousin says to me when I'm younger, he's like, Mike, he's like, you they arrest you with the murder weapon under your pillow. Just deny it all the way. Don't worry about it. I'm just like, all right. So I had that. I was just like, man. So they indict me on felonies. They indict me on second-degree strangulation, which is a felony, theft of services, which is a misdemeanor, and then attempted second-degree assault, which is a higher felony. So then they come at me with 6 months in jail, 5 years probation, and I'm like, no, I'll take this to trial because I think that right before trial they're going to be like, okay, we'll let this go or we'll figure it out or whatever, something different. Nope. So we get a trial date.
Nope.
In a way, it's kind of cool. I hate to say cool, but that I got to experience a trial. That's like something that like people really don't get to experience. So I'm an experienced guy. Like I like to experience things.
What? That's a real positive way to look at it.
I know. Hear me out. I like to experience things, and like in a way, in the back of my head, I know this sounds horrible, and people out there are gonna cringe, but like I had a chance through my medical career to like talk to doctors during the day and then like be at a crack house at night. Like to live that dichotomy, a lot of people don't get to live that. I don't want to do that anymore. But to say that I covered all sorts of parts of like society is kind of neat in a way. I know that sounds really messed up and it's probably not.
No, it doesn't at all. My wife and I have had these conversations on many occasions, and I tell her, I said, where I'm at now, first of all, I wouldn't have the experience or the knowledge of how the streets work, how the criminal justice system works, how life works. I don't think I would be such a deep thinker as far as like understanding other people.
Right.
I don't regret, and I think I say it every episode that I come on here and do a podcast. I don't regret one thing that I did. Now,
exactly.
Do I regret do I regret stealing from the people and like hurting them financially? Obviously.
Yeah.
Like anybody that knows me knows I'm a big softie. I have a huge heart. Like my goal was never to hurt anybody.
Yeah.
Like, so hurting my mom, like putting her through all that, of course I regret that. But on the back end, just like you said, there's a lot of people that go through life that don't really experience anything. I married my high school sweetheart. We had 3 kids. We grew up together. Oh, we might get a divorce, or that's like the most traumatic thing that happens to him. You know what I mean?
Right.
Not that there's anything wrong with that. Like I actually encourage that lifestyle.
Yeah.
on the flip side of it, I'm like, dude, I've lived a pretty like wild life. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, not that I'm proud of it, but I'm thankful for everything that's happened.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be who I am right. I wouldn't be doing this fucking podcast. I wouldn't have like an outreach ministry trying to like mentor to guys while I'm out on the road.
Exactly.
Like I wouldn't be doing this. I'd probably be 10 times bigger of a piece of shit than I ever was in my depths of addiction if I didn't go to prison. So
yeah, a lot of people like, so you have like the people that probably don't get in trouble at all. Then you have people that like on our side that are like probably the realest people you're going to meet and the most understanding. Well, I'll speak for myself. Most understanding, full of grace for people because grace has been extended to me by God, obviously, but then also from other people and experiencing like being a piece of crap. So then like, how can I not forgive somebody when I did this horrible thing to people? Yeah. But then there's the majority of people that live their life.
Don't learn from it.
That thing. Yeah. And they don't think they're doing anything wrong. And they're like undercover scumbags. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And yeah. So,
or I mean, you even have the repeat offenders that they just never get it right. They think that that's how they need to live their life, and they're constantly in and out, and they don't want to grow. They don't want to become better people. So there's people on all different ends of the spectrum. But yeah, it's I don't regret anything that I did. Like I said, again, aside from the people I hurt, like that was never.
That's how I feel the same exact way. No, as the commercial with the tattoo. No regrets.
No regrets. No regrets. Okay, so what was so then what happened at trial? They ended up getting you. What was your final term?
So trial, I was found guilty of the strangulation, theft of services, not of the second degree assault. So they gave me what they offered me originally: 6 months in jail, 5 years probation. But the judge was like, he's like, if you come back in front of me, Mr. Pietoso, he's like, I'm nailing you a 2-year prison sentence. And I was like, in my head, I'm still like, yeah, right, whatever. So like just crazy, like I didn't understand the magnitude of the situation I was in, or like the grip that I had, because I never been through the system, and I didn't realize how the system can screw you over. So
yeah,
I do my 4 months in county jail. So you hear all the stories about jail and prison and all this stuff. So I was in Ithaca, New York, where county jail was a bunch of like backwoods people and a couple like people from the city here and there. So what did we do all the time? We played spades and we cooked and we watched the news and we all giggled and joked, and there was nothing that was intimidating about the situation. So I was like, this is nothing, right? Whatever. So as soon as I left, as soon as I got released, I went out and drank beer at there's a college bar that had outdoor seating in Ithaca by Cornell University. So I went there and had a couple beers, and so I just started a run from that point on. Violated probation, got rearrested in New Jersey, and then I experienced what real county jail was in Newark, New Jersey. Bloods and Crips, 2,000 inmates compared to 40 inmates in Ithaca. I had to fight in there. I had to like protect my shit. So that was jail, and I was like, oh, okay, so this is getting serious now. And then it got more serious when I got extradited, and he sentenced me to 2 years in prison. So I got sentenced. I ended up going to, it was called in our back wall was Attica's wall shared our wall, and it was called Wyoming State Correctional Facility in right by Buffalo, New York. So I did my 1.5 years up there, freezing cold. Saw people getting stabbed, faces getting slashed. That was the big thing up there. All these young hot boys would slash people's faces, So
yeah.
The way I
what level facility was that? A lockdown facility, or was it like a camp?
It was medium. So New York State doesn't have any minimum. They had medium or max. And the thing with the mediums is that like we get a lot of prisoners from Attica. So if you were good in Attica, meaning that you didn't kill anybody, you can still cut people or stab people, whatever. After 10 years, you come down to medium. So, that there's people getting high, drinking, whatever, all that stuff in there, gambling. I stayed away from all that my first time around, right? Because I was like, oh shit, this is the big time. I don't like this is controlled by different people. I didn't want to get involved with anybody. So the way I survived my first time was I found out who was running, or it was dorm style, it wasn't cell style, dorm. So I found out who was running the dorm. It was a blood guy. And, I went up to him and I was like, hey, just to let you know, if you guys are working on appeals or any court documents or whatever, like I can type. I'm good at grammar, whatever. So we worked out a deal. Nobody's going to mess with my stuff. I always walk back to my commissary. Never had anybody push up on me. They gave me like 2 packs of Newports a week. And then I would just spend my time in the law library and just like do my time, like grading papers, and that's it, man. Yeah, everybody, hey, what's up, Mike? How's it going? And that's how I made it through. Got released in 2016, I think it was. Pissed dirty a bunch of times, and they sent me back in front of the judge, or they violated me, and then for a violent offender, it was another 1.5 years. So I ended up doing 3.5 on this thing, where the person didn't even get hurt, didn't even go to the hospital. And I say that because I'm still a little bitter, but
You fucking choked him, Mike.
I
You fucking
know, I
choked the
know,
taxi driver.
I know. But I let him go when he said he couldn't breathe. So
Okay, well, there's that. I mean, because that could have turned into like I don't know,
I
homicide or
know,
some
I
shit.
know. Yeah, that's a whole nother thing where I go ebbs and flows where like I feel incredibly guilty, and then other times I feel fucked over by the system. So I get incredibly angry at the system and then justify myself.
Well, listen, man, I'm going to give you a hard pill to swallow here. You kind of fucked yourself over taking it to trial. Like
Yeah,
that's
I,
not being a dick,
I
but like if that's the one thing, man, you have to understand. And for anybody listening, if you're guilty, even in your mind, unless your lawyer's telling you no, we're taking it to trial, because I have no doubt your lawyer was probably telling you like, no, we don't want to do this. Like we shouldn't take this to trial.
yeah, basically, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So I mean, you turned a 6-month bid into
three and a
three and a
half.
half years.
Yeah, exactly. No, I mean, like the ultimate mistake was me getting intoxicated. I mean, there's so many different. It's ultimately my fault. I do not like put the blame on other people. Like it's ultimately my fault. I feel bad that I traumatized this guy. I shouldn't have drank and partied before going up there on the way up to rehab. I mean, there's so many different layers where I could have made better mistakes, but I was acting in an addicted brain where I'm not putting that off as an excuse. Addicted brain where it's like acting selfishly is what I'm saying. Selfishly and
Yeah.
self-centered. And that's what happened. And I didn't take into account anybody's feelings or life or anything, including myself, and the result
Yeah.
was what happened. So,
I mean, I will give you I will give you the small town, small county jurisdictions, courts, they will railroad you every time. It does because you have to figure they don't get the influx of crime like the big cities have. So when something wild like this happens,
yeah,
they want to make an example of people, dude.
right.
That was the Portage County. There's all kinds of corrupt shit that goes in and out of there, and I know because my dad was friends with the judges. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're all naive if you think that like Portage County, nothing crazy happens out there between the court systems and the police and everything else. I it happens everywhere, but small towns, you have to
Mind
you
your
will
P's
get
and Q's.
railroaded.
Yeah.
You will get railroaded in a small town.
I learned that lesson
So
100%. So, yeah. Um, so this time, I got sent back and I got reception. My reception center was in Elmira, which was right by Spencer, right? And that's where I went to nursing school, was in Elmira. So I remember driving past my school on the prison bus, going to reception, going, "Oh my gosh, this is crazy!" And then Elmira is like this old Shawshank Redemption type of prison, and I was like, "Here we go again." And I ended up doing my year and a half at Fishkill, which is right by New York City. And
I've heard of this. Yeah,
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 and this was a wild group in there, even wilder than the other spot. Uh, Nobody, I didn't even feel like bothering with anybody. I started smoking K2 there, taking Suboxone, drinking. I remember one night I was smoking K2, I was taking Suboxone, and I was drinking hooch. And I was sitting there, and I was in a room with 5 murderers, going, "Holy shit, my life is insane right now." So
yeah.
yeah. Made it through. Nobody pushed up on me. Everybody was just like, "This guy doesn't belong here," and didn't have to like make a trade to make it through. I just did my thing. Got out, and wow, man, I got out in 2020 during COVID, and I ended up going right back to partying. I ended up living in a car. I had a car, and I was homeless. I was waiting tables, and then I ended up going into a facility like a Christian home in 2020. I became a project manager at a construction company, left there, uh, ended up moving to Texas, and then now I'm living in Alabama. And I'm currently doing my counseling online. I have another 3 classes and an internship. Have an opportunity to do real estate right now, so I'm trying to get it. I have a scholarship with one of the real estate companies to do classes, so I'm going to start doing that in the next couple weeks. And Just doing sobriety, man. Like, I'll tell you one thing. I've been the biggest thing that I've been noticing. I wanted to come on here like all polished. Is this where you want to go right now with it, or did you have any other questions about?
It's your podcast. You tell me.
All
It's
right.
your episode. We'll go wherever you want to go.
No, so like the perfectionism thing, right? Perfectionism and workspace stuff. Like, I wanted if like when I agreed to do the podcast, we've been talking for a while now, and then we started talking about doing a podcast a couple months ago, and like I was like,
I'm going to cut you off
yeah,
real quick though,
sure,
because I had a ton of respect for you because when you and I first initially reconnected, I had asked you, I said, "Hey man, this is a project I'm working on. Like I just kind of do it as a hobby. Do you want to come on?"
yeah,
And you literally told me, you were like, "Listen, things are good, but I don't want to come on until like things are a little better." You
right,
know what I mean? Until I've got some time under my belt. Um, and I respect that because I don't ever, you know what I mean? I don't. The whole point of this is for people to see the highs, the lows, all of it, and there was a lot of respect there that you were like, "No, let's give it some time."
yeah,
I think you went on another run after that, but
yeah, yeah.
you also you've been honest with me the whole time, and I that's why I appreciate your friendship at this point because I don't want the cookie cutter bullshit. You know what I
Exactly.
mean?
I'm too old for that.
When I get a half hour to 40 minutes to talk to you on the phone, like I want to know what's holding you down, what's bugging you, what you're doing to fix it, where your sights are at. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I don't want the polished, like, because I got to be honest, man, nobody's fucking polished.
right.
You could put on a cool little mask and like fake the funk, but
Yeah.
nobody's polished.
Well, that's what I appreciate about you. And okay, so that's what I wanted. I mean, there's a couple of things I want to touch on. So when I said that to you, like I still had a lot of that perfectionism. Like I wanted to come on. I think the motivation deep down was like I want to have a cure to offer people. Like I want to have something. But I think what I have to offer is saying that right now things are like all over the place with me, right? But I'm finding that if I'm getting into a rhythm and routine, for me that works. And counseling is helping. And
You just said something. I'm going to cut you off real
yeah,
quick because you said you want to have a cure to offer, and I hope you understand, like, honesty like this, not trying to come on polished, is the cure to offer.
that's it. Exactly.
Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? That's why I'll get on here and talk about anything that I've got going on, even on the phone with you guys. Like I'm as transparent as I can be without hurting myself or my family
Yeah, for
members.
sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, but I think I don't think you should feel like you don't have anything to offer because this is what you have to offer. You know?
My little OCD perfectionism wants to put this thing in a box and be like, boom, this is how you get sober, right? But what I'm
I know.
finding is the sobriety is happening from being honest, like we talk about, like be honest to yourself, right? Be honest with myself, be honest with other people, because I have never been honest. Like people ask me, how are you doing? Everything's good. I'm good, 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 right? But things aren't good. But that's okay. Like it's like to me, when things were, if things were not good, then I couldn't let people know that because that means that's like the worst thing I could let people know. But now I'm starting to learn, and I got a long way to go. Like, hey, I'm struggling with this today. I'm struggling with that. And being honest with myself where I'm at. And that's so tough for me because I want to polish, like, I just want to make sure everything looks good on the outside. And I appreciate
Well,
like
there's
reconnecting. Yep. Good.
yeah. Well, it's vulnerability, dude. Nobody wants to seem vulnerable.
Yeah.
You know, nobody wants to look like they don't have their shit together. I'm the same way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Um, but you have to get past that. You're never going to grow or heal or become who you need to be if you're always trying to fake who you are. You know.
Exactly. And that it just it doesn't
So
it doesn't work for me anymore. Like when I was younger, that was my coping mechanism. That was my survival tactic, right? And it worked into my 20s, and then it didn't work so much anymore, and then now it doesn't work at all because like when things fall off the rails, they go off the rails, and like it's a life or death situation. It's a life altering
yeah,
situation at this point. Like you know how it is. The drug of choice, if you go back to once you release that monkey from the cage, man, anything can happen. Anything,
yeah.
anything. So
yeah, well, and that's and you and I have been talking a lot lately about just being honest with yourself. I think it's not even so much as being honest with other people. Like, obviously there's things that go on in my life that I don't want people to know about.
yeah,
And honestly, it's none of their business.
right,
Like, but in the back of my mind, I still have to be in my heart and soul. I still have to be honest with myself. Like, even if it's not what I want to hear, even if I think it should be something different, like, you still have to. You're the one that has to go to sleep with yourself every night. You're the one that has to wake up with yourself every day, no matter who's laying next to you, no matter who's in your life at that moment.
right.
The only person that's going to be with you 24 hours a day is you. And
Yeah.
your thoughts and your regrets and everything else. So you're just better off, like, don't lie to yourself, man.
The more I lied to myself, the more shame I had. The more shame I had, the more I used. The more I used, the more I messed up. The more I messed up, the more shame I had. And it's just like this cycle, bro, you know? But
Yeah.
it all begins with like not letting people know where I'm at and not saying that, you know what, I'm not okay and I don't have to be okay. Because I always had to be okay. I always had to be on point when I was growing up to show up for my family and show up for like to make sure nobody knew what was going on behind closed doors. So I always had to like have that polished persona. And if I don't tell the doctor what's wrong with me, then he's not going to be able to give me the right medication or the right physical therapy or something like that. So I got to like always check myself. And that's what I'm finding. And I find with me too, as I learn to be more transparent with people, because it takes a while it's going to be a lifelong process because we're reversing decades of behavior, right?
Yeah.
But also rhythm and routine for me. Even though life is going to throw curveballs, I wake up early in the morning, and when I wake up early in the morning and I go hit a workout and I do my schoolwork and journal, I find that my day is significantly better than when I just wake up behind the eight ball and get going. Like, I set the course for the day instead of the day setting the course for me. And I know that shit can fall apart. I know there's going to be days when I can't hit that and I have to be okay with it. But I know that if I can hit that like 5 out of 7 days out of the week, my week's going to be pretty damn good, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm the same way. I can, dude, I don't get to go to the gym. We've got a window of times that I can pick up and deliver on this new lane that I'm on. So I used to love, because I would be the same way. I would sleep at a Planet Fitness, get up in the morning, go to the gym. And then a lot of times I would be so wound tight at the end of the night, I'd be going back into the gym just to walk on a treadmill or, like, you know what I mean? Do some light lifting.
Yeah.
But it was the same thing. Prayer in the morning, gym in the morning, have my quiet time with the pup and my breakfast, and then get moving. And then days, and even at home, like this morning, I had an opportunity. Now, did we have some issues down here? Yeah, it is what it is, but life's going to throw you curveballs.
Yeah.
But the days, you're absolutely right. The days that I can keep to like my structured, like what I'm normally used to, you know what I mean? They are exponentially better than the days where I just hit the ground running.
Yeah.
I don't think that's really good for anybody. I understand why some people do it, hustle, bustle, whatever. But yeah, that's at least for addicts, for me, for you, I think you have to have some sort of structure.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel that way for sure. It's the tough part now is like so I went to treatment 4 months ago, right? And it's like accepting where I am. Like, I'm still in the beginning of the recovery process. Like, you're established, right? You have like your wife, your kids, like you have a great job, you're making good money. I'm just in the beginning phase of this whole thing. And it's frustrating going from, when I was working as a nurse and EMT in the city, like making over 100,000 a year, going to, I'm making $500 a week. It's tough, man. Sobriety, this thing is tough because you're not starting, for the majority of people, you're not starting off on a win streak again. You're starting off at the, rock bottom, and you're working your way back up from all the stuff that you burned down to the ground, right? And it's tough.
Yeah.
It's enough to make you want to use sometimes, but then I know that if I use again, it's just gonna, oh my gosh, it's gonna be exponentially worse and harder to get out of this hole. So, but then I gotta flip it.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing that I could encourage you with on that is you have to understand, my wife says all the time, success, it's something that they like toss around at her job, and I've heard it a billion times, and she says it, and it's success is a ladder. Like, to get to the top, you got to climb it, dude.
Yeah.
And it's, you can't, and you have to understand That's one of the biggest things for me. And I guess when you get to a certain point of I'm trying to think of the best way to say this. Where I'm at in my life right now, like you said, I'm established.
Yeah.
Am I where I want to be? Absolutely fucking not.
Right.
Like I want a bigger house. I want to have the men's home. I want to have the recovery like outreach program. You know what I mean? Like I still have goals, but I very clearly remember the 15 years that it took me to get to where I am now. You know what I mean? And year after year, as you're stacking those blocks, I'm like it. I don't know if I would be able to come back. That's what scares me.
Exactly.
If I went back to using pills or doing dope, and I got to be honest, man, at this point in my life, that shit doesn't even like, I don't even think about it anymore.
Yeah.
I'm like, the thought of even doing it kind of makes me like sick, like cringy. You know what I mean? But I constantly correlate like where I'm at versus where I would be if I went back to doing that. And I don't want to lose what I have, man. Like I'm not, I'll tell you, gratitude's not something I'm good at. Gratitude is something I am fucking terrible at. And my wife will sit here all day long, and when I'm in one of my funks on the phone, she'll recite my gratitude list for me because she knows I'm so fucking stubborn that I won't do it myself.
Right.
But she'll say, you've got a great life. You know, you have your own home. Like, did you ever think you would own your own home?
Right.
Did you ever think that you would be married? Did you ever think that your kids would want to have a relationship with you?
Right.
Did you ever think your mom would have a relationship with you again? You know, all those things, like, they compound, man. And I sit back and then I can logically sit here and be like, no, you're right. I do have a great life. Like, you know, but it took, like I just said, man, I came home from prison 12 years ago. I met my wife 10 years ago. And it has been an upward trajectory from there. But have I fallen? Yeah. I slipped up, 3 years ago and went on a bender using coke.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I've slipped up. I fucked up. Things were kind of getting wonky in my marriage and in my life. And I was at a job that I fucking hated. And, but even slipping, I didn't fall all the way back down to the bottom.
Yeah.
It was still, and I will say, after slipping, I put in fucking work like the last 3 years to make sure that that's not going to happen again. You know, like I bridged whatever gap was between my wife and I. Like, we've worked on our issues that were going on back then. I got out of my job that I hated. You know what I mean? I like, and I quit being codependent on my wife. For a long time, I was codependent on her. Like, so you just have to put in the work, and you have to understand, man, like, it's not going to happen overnight. Where I'm at, like, I want everybody to have what I have, but I also want everybody to understand it's taken me 13 years at this point to get here.
Yeah,
you know,
for sure.
And it's 13 years of working on myself, working on my issues, working on learning how to be a partner to my wife, which is, I was never good at being in a relationship before, you know, so it's just hard work, dude. And it's staying the course.
Yeah,
you have to, that should be your first thought when you're thinking of like going back out and getting a beer or going to the trap spot or whatever, is, you know, look at, even if it's only been 6 months to a year, that's still 6 months to a year that you've been doing it.
Yeah.
Like, why are you willing to give all that progress up just to go fucking get a buzz?
I agree. And it's just like, it doesn't even appeal to me. It's just, oh man, my mindset has changed, and it's part getting older and part just going through this whole process when you're older. And it's just like, just not appealing, you know. But
well, you're a drug addict, dude. And I think one of the things that I battle with all the time is like, I was an intravenous drug user. So for anybody that knows about IV users, like that, the amount of dopamine and shit that's like released into your brain in that very instant, it's way different than eating pills or like snorting a line or whatever. So I think over the years I did a lot of damage to my receptors to where things that should make me happy, I don't get excited about. Like, I'm just I go through life very numb. So therefore, where I know there's stuff that's going on that I should be happy and excited for, and I'm not, that's when the wheels start turning. Like, because as drug addicts, you want that dopamine hit. You know what I mean? You want that feeling of like euphoria, of like happiness. That's why we started using drugs, because it gave us like that feeling of happiness and euphoria. And so that's another thing you have to learn to get accustomed to going through life.
That's such a good point. That's such a good point. Yeah.
If you've burned your receptors out, there's going to be, you're going to have to learn to cope with the fact that like things that should make you happy aren't making you as happy as they would had you not been a drug. My wife gets excited. I took her to a fucking drone show last night. It's Hall of Fame week. I love living in Canton, Ohio, dude, because Football Hall of Fame, we get the Yellow Jacket inductee ceremonies down here once a year. And it's Hall of Fame week. So instead of fireworks, they had a drone show last night. And she I love her to death, man, but I get resentful of her sometimes because of how happy she gets over like the smallest shit, you know? She doesn't do drugs. She's never done drugs. Like the most she's ever done is drank too much. And we're sitting there watching these drones and she's dancing and she's yelling and like screaming like a fucking 5-year-old. And I loved it. You know what I mean? Because I'm like, I wish I could get excited like that still. And like, she's still almost got like the heart of a kid, but like, then I'm sitting back thinking, I'm like, but her brain works the way that it's supposed to work. Exactly. Mine doesn't, you know? So.
You touched on two really huge things, and I just want to go over real quick. First off, the gratitude. If I don't have gratitude for what I have right now, and I got to constantly always work on that, then I'm going to give it up and use again, because like, I'm just like, whatever, it's not really important. So it's not going to hold weight. Right. So the gratitude is huge. And then, that dopamine reward system that we burnt out, like understanding that that's where you're going to live, at least for a while, to expect it, right? Because we expect that once we stop using, everything's going to be good, and it's not. It's going to be a tough road. But I do love a challenge, Chris, you know? So
yeah,
I do love a challenge, and I do, at this point, going through the ringer a couple times, I expect that I'm not going to be happy about all the usual stuff that other people are happy about. But I never used to be like that. And that would lead me to using, because I would say, oh man, there's something wrong with me, or I'm not enjoying life anymore, so I might as well just use, you know? So
yeah. Well, and I think that's where having a gratitude list, obviously, when you can logically go through things that you have in your life that are positive, that you've worked for, that's why in recovery they say you have to have a gratitude list, because I can't tell you how many times I get out. I'm a big emotional baby, dude. Like I still to this day, I'll be in the truck and I'll start thinking about something and I'll be sobbing in like 5 minutes, for like 5 minutes, you know. Regrets creep up all the time. But that's where gratitude comes into play. If you can't, you're obviously not going to be able to experience like those high dopamine rushes. And dude, I got to be honest, with cell phones and everything else, you're taking such quick dopamine hits. Like every time you look at your cell phone, you're burning your receptors out anyway. So like for somebody like me who has probably very low dopamine stores to begin with, me scrolling on my phone, like I'm numb.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? For the most part.
Yeah.
But to be able to logically go through the things in your life that where you've made progress, your gratitude list, things that you're happy for, that's why they say in recovery, you need to have a gratitude list.
Yeah, I agree. 100%.
So
yeah, man, I definitely, I try to practice gratitude as much as possible, and I have so much to be grateful about, And that's the thing, is that, I mean, we all do, right? And to let you know, everybody's an addict. It just depends on what you're addicted to, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, the Amazon packages on my porch every time I come home tells me that my wife is addicted to something.
Yeah,
but yeah,
exactly. Yeah, man.
Was there anything else you wanted to touch on? What's next in the mix for Mike P?
Yeah,
I mean, aside, I said you were getting your real estate license.
Yeah, so I'm going to start working on the real estate license. Yeah, doing that. I tried. So I'm trying to get my nursing. Oh, so through all this, my nursing license, I had 2 nursing licenses, one in New York State, one in Hawaii, because my dream was I was a year away from being a flight nurse on a helicopter, and I love surfing. So I was going to surf during the day and then be a flight nurse at night, right? So New York State got taken away. The Hawaii one lapsed. So I just finished all the paperwork to try to get my Hawaii nursing license back. So I'll find out in a couple months. So I'm trying to become a nurse again. I am just about done. I have 3 classes in my internship left for my master's in counseling. So working on that. I just love to help people, and I want to use what I've done, what I've been through, to help other people out. So That's something I'm passionate about. And one more quick thing about the nursing: if like I was able to be the nurse again, I used to be just ER, like emergency, like pre-hospital or ER. Now, like I would love to just like be around the geriatric patients and just like bring them flowers and like bring them joy, stuff like that. So like I
Yeah.
feel like God's been changing my heart on like my motivation for helping people, or why I'm getting into the careers I'm getting into. So yeah, so nursing, hopefully, the real estate, and then the counseling. Um, just reestablishing a relationship with myself, because there was this past run in when I was in Texas was a couple of years long, and it really was detrimental to myself, and like really made a disconnect of who I am and who I want to be, and what's my life going to look like. So learning who I am at this point at 47 years old, who I am again, what I really want out of life, and what I want to bring and what I can bring to the table, and just being, like you said, like we talk about. And I really appreciate you in my life, like always checking me and saying, you got to be honest with yourself. You got to be honest with yourself. Cause I wouldn't be honest with myself all those years, so I'm just learning what that really means. So it's an amazing adventure, this sobriety thing. And I feel like everybody should be in recovery. Like recovery to me is just working on yourself to make you a better version of yourself, and not letting
Yeah.
negative things take you out, whether it's overeating, drugs and alcohol, gambling, sex, porn, shopping. I mean, whatever, gaming, whatever we all do, and just like using it for good. And it's a fun adventure, bro. I love it.
The best thing that I love about all this is thinking about who I was. That I guess that's my driving force in a lot of what I do, and who I am today is, and not relapsing and not going back to drugs as well, is thinking back to who I was when, I mean, you literally met me at my lowest point in my life, dude.
Yeah.
I remember there was a photo that was taken of me. I was smiling real big. I was eating a muffin. I was fat as shit. I think Elena took it. She was walking down the hallway and she snapped it at me real quick. But my teeth were like nasty yellow. My face was like just this gross pale color.
Yeah.
And it was within the first week of being at Renovation House. And like I said, I was on the run. I'd done a bunch of shit. I knew they were like looking at me. So
Yeah.
I just wanted to get the fuck out of town. And I think about who I was, stealing from my mom,
Yep.
stealing from the community,
Yep.
and who I am now. And that's my biggest driving force, because like I have good relationships with people, man. I love who I am right now.
Yeah.
There's days that I don't like. There's shit that goes through my head where I'm like, there's days that I have days like everybody else does, and I don't want anybody to think like once you get 13, 14 years down the road that things are like great and peachy keen, because they're not. Like you probably have more issues down the road once you start becoming established,
Yeah.
But I look at who I am today, and like you and I talked about, the life experience, the knowledge, the wisdom, the love that like I've learned to extend on to people, and I don't want to give that up. Like
Exactly.
there's not a part of me that would even consider, if somebody showed up on my front doorstep right now with a kilo of dope, I'd probably just beat the fuck out of them. But
Right.
but like it doesn't even I don't even think about doing dope anymore,
Yeah.
to be honest with you.
That's awesome. I love to hear that. Yeah.
So I want to encourage you, man. Like you've gone back out, I think once now. I mean, obviously, since I've met you, it's been a few times, but since you met me, it's been a bunch of times too.
Yeah.
But since you and I have been talking, you've gone back out once. I remember the conversation. I told you, I said, I don't think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
But I said, I would much rather be your friend and leave this line of communication open. Obviously, I'm not going to like shut the door, be like, you're a dumbass, don't do that. I would much rather keep the friendship and have an open line of communication when you figure things out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you went on another run, and I want to encourage you. I want you to think next time that idea pops in your mind, think about how further you would be right now.
Yeah.
If you just didn't,
Yeah. That's a good point for sure.
Because again, like it's all blocks. It's all success is a ladder, man. And you're the only one that keeps kicking yourself back down to the bottom rung.
Yeah. I I'm appreciating that. I'm just starting to understand in my head that life is always going to be in flux, right? And that's okay. We never arrive. And you know what, Chris? I like the person I am. I really do. I like this
Yeah.
dude, I used to hate
Yeah.
myself. I used to hate myself so much. And like even though I don't have that much stuff right now, like I'm content. And I got to like make sure I keep that contentment or else, we know the result. But
Yeah.
yeah, man. I agree. I appreciate that.
The other thing, man, is 3 years ago when I've been honest with everybody about it. 3 years ago when I started using Coke again, I didn't just start using a little bit here up my nose. I was immediately give me the needles. It's going in my arm.
Yeah.
And I remember that went on for I think it was like 2 months, off and on, pretty frequently while I was at work. I was doing it while I was, and dude, I even think back to then and I'm like, dude, what would my fucking kids have done had they walked out of their like room and seen me slumped over on the couch with a
Yeah.
fucking needle hanging out of my arm?
Yeah.
And that was just 3 years ago, man. And that was because life gave me a bunch of curveballs that I hadn't worked on myself enough to get to the point where I was able to like physically, or not physically, but like mentally and emotionally cope with it.
Right.
Like I was good for 10 years, but I was good because I put all of my shit on my wife's back. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like I was good because she was with me. Well, the second that started to fall apart because I was spiraling. But I remember like just thinking like what a piece of shit I was when I was doing all that again a couple years ago, you know?
Yeah.
And the whole time I was doing it, I was like, every time I would do it, I would feel so much dirtier and gross and hate myself for doing it. But I was just like, fuck it. Because us as addicts, once we light the fuse to blow our life up, we're ordering an atomic bomb as a
Oh
side play,
no, I
like,
know.
and we're just setting it off.
I know.
And I remember very clearly, I used to tell my wife all the time, I was like, I'm fucking like, I'm just going to blow. I didn't tell my wife. I would tell myself, I'm just going to blow my fucking life up because she was relentless. She wouldn't leave me.
Yeah.
Like she was finally getting to the point when she kicked me out of the house that she was about to be done. But my whole goal was to make her hate me so much that she would just be like, go,
Is that
get the
oh
fuck
my
out,
gosh.
leave me alone.
That's crazy. I've done the same thing and I know exactly what you're
So,
talking about. Yeah. Yeah.
and I've got a trooper, man. I've said it 100 times on here. She brought me home kicking and screaming. She kicked me out, thought that's the route. She thought she was doing the best thing. And then when she saw that I was just going to continue to blow my life up, she dragged me home kicking and screaming,
Yeah.
dude.
Yep.
Luckily, because I don't know if I would have come back from it, but I did. And we are where we are now. But yeah, man, I want to encourage you to keep doing what you're doing, man. And when you're thinking about kicking yourself down that ladder, just think about how hard it's going to be to get back up on top of it where you're at.
Thank you, bro. Thank you so much. I appreciate you being in my life so much. Like just knowing you and just back then, like you were, even though you say that, like I looked out for you, like you were like one of the guys that like made me feel normal there, and I looked up to
Yeah.
and I got along with really well. And I just, I'm sorry that we lost touch for a couple of years there. And then I'm just glad that we got to meet up in Ohio and I got to see you and that we're staying in touch now.
I am too.
Yeah, man. Like it's just like you've always, like you definitely touched my life back then. And I really appreciate the times on the phone that you've helped me through this situation.
Oh, absolutely, dude. I love you, dude.
Yeah.
There's not a whole lot of people that I talk to most of the guys that mean a lot to me during the week.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just like check-ins, whatever. I remember telling my mom when I explained to Mary who you were to me when we had connected and then we met up in Columbus and so on and so forth. And I was telling my mom remembered you from being at the house, but I've always in explaining who you were to me, you were my big brother when I got to Renovation House because
thanks.
you kind of like showed me the ropes. I could come to you for anything. Like you were the house manager and you didn't have that like ego on your shoulder. Like I'm making it. You're the new guy, which happens in a lot of rehab facilities. You go to a house manager and they're cocky and they're like, "Well, I've made it," and you're like the low guy on the totem pole. Like, figure it out.
Yeah. You
were never like that, man. It was always fun. It was always laughing. Like when you were around, like you would make jokes out of everything. You made me feel comfortable in the house. And I don't know, dude. You were like my big brother at the house, and I've always appreciated that, and that's why you've always you got you're very personable, dude.
Yeah,
Like
man.
you can use that trait for so many good things, which I think God's putting on your heart to where you're going to. You just got to get out of your own way.
Yeah.
You know,
Thank you for
like you're
that.
a great dude. You're a great dude. You just get tied up in your own bullshit and then you stumble.
I'm a great dude
So
only when I'm sleeping. No, I'm just kidding.
no, that's not true. But all right, well, we'll go ahead and wrap this.
All
I
right.
think we're sitting at like an hour and I think 30, 40 minutes
What?
right now. So
All right.
yeah, with both episodes.
All right, cool.
I'll tag these together and get you on here. But to anybody tuning in, obviously like, subscribe. It just helps us push it up in the rankings. We are not a monetized channel. I don't really have any interest in being one. It's too much work. But make sure you like, subscribe, help us get the message out there. And until next time, we'll see you.
Adios.
Bye.
Bye.
All right,
Nice.
dude. We're off.